Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday Morning Sports Show here on 97.3 WRUL, 93.3 WROY, AM 1460, online worldwide at WRUL.com, and even on demand afterwards on the WRUL Sports YouTube channel. Cole Carter alongside Chris Myers, Jovi Wagner across the hallway getting us on the air this morning, and going to recap the Bulldogs' 32-0 loss last night on the road at Cesar Valliere. And Chris, really a ball game that really defined it. It just wasn't Carmine's night last night.
No, it wasn't. And you give all the credit in the world to Cesar Valliere. I mean, they were just a very solid football team. You know, going into this game, I felt up front was going to be a huge key because looking at their lineups, you know, Cole, they had two all-conference linemen at guard and left tackle on the line of scrimmage, and then they had a kid playing fullback who could be an all-conference lineman if they wanted to put him there. It was Caden Hicks at 6'2", almost 250 pounds, playing him at, you know, a fullback, wingback position where he's really just, you know, an extra blocker, and he was just dominant. And the bottom line is, you know, we just got shoved around at the line of scrimmage, and didn't start out too bad, you know, as far as, you know, no score through the first quarter, but eventually, you know, the physicality of Cesar and their size, they just wore the Bulldogs down.
Well, the Bulldogs on their first drive, they got the football, and Cale Wiggins had about a 50-yard run all the way deep into Cesar territory, and the Bulldogs turned it over on downs. And that was kind of the story of the night for Carmi. I feel like they had a couple of drives where they got near the red zone or inside the red zone, even one time had a goal to go, and just couldn't find the end zone. I mean, it's the first time since March 27th, March of 2021, since the Bulldogs got shut out. Of course, that was that 2020 spring COVID season where they played two seasons in 2021. But they went 0-6 that year. It's a season that we all like to forget, but that was the last time that Carmi got shut out in a game. But Chris, like you said, you just got to tip your cap to Cesar Valliere. Defensively, I mean, they just had Carmi snuffed out on everything.
Yeah, they were just literally a brick wall last night. And, you know, that opening drive, that huge run by Wiggins, we get down inside. I think we were inside the 5, you know, at least that area close into there, and just couldn't punch it in the end zone. You know, that was kind of the indicator of how the night was going to go, because when you get opportunities like that on the road against a really good football team in Cesar, you got to take advantage of it. If the Bulldogs could have punched that one in the end zone, maybe things changed a little bit in that first half, you know, just from obviously a momentum perspective, but mentally, you know, the kids realize, okay, we can move the ball, we can score here a little bit, and that changes the game. But after that, you know, Cesar they kind of took a page out of our book, and they pounded the ball between the tackles, they'd hit us in the edge. You know, they had a decent intermediate passing game. You know, they were athletic at all positions. Their quarterback was a good athlete, the bruising fullback and Hicks, and then they had another good young man in the backfield. I believe it was Irvin. Yes, 224 yards. A couple of those were just 70, 80-yard touchdown runs, but they're a talented football team. You know, and that we had been talking before, Cole. This is a program that, since the past 10 years or so, has really kind of elevated to another level. I think you pointed out, we have, since 2015, we've beaten them once, maybe, you know, and you credit that to, you know, what Coach Shadowins has done. And now Mike Rood, as I pointed out, is basically the co-head coach. And, you know, folks in Southern Illinois know Mike Rood's history at Johnson City and Marion. Guys, you know, he's a Hall of Fame level coach for the state of Illinois. And that was the other thing. You know, I noticed how well coached they were as far as scheme. When the Bulldogs would get in different looks, how their defense would move and shift when we got in the power eye. They knew our tendencies. Power eye left, well, they would literally move 3 or 4 kids over to that side of the line of scrimmage and just, you know, say, okay, we know this is going, and vice versa. So they're well coached and just extremely physical up front. Like you pointed out, Cole, those 2 offensive linemen that were all conference last year, I mean, they're pulling linemen every play. They just wear you down in so many facets of the game, and you know you just tip your cap to them at the end of the day.
Cesar started off the scoring, as Chris mentioned. It was a scoreless first quarter, but with 8:50 left in the second, Caden Hicks scored on an 11-yard touchdown run. They missed the 2-point play, so it was 6-0 Red Devils. And then Carmi had the football They were, again, intercessor territory late in the first half, a turnover on downs, a couple of long plays, including a 30-yard touchdown pass from quarterback Trace Payne to Kyan Short. That made it a 12-0 game at the half. And even at halftime, you're still thinking, okay, if the Bulldogs come out and get a stop, put together a score, it's they're right back in. That's I really do think in the first half, even though it seemed like Censor was dominating at some times, it was only a 12-0 game, and I still feel even in the end result, 32-0, Carmi was still a couple of plays away from being in that ball game.
Yes, absolutely. You know, in the second quarter, if you go back to the second quarter when we were only down 6-0, I mean, we had moved the ball, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cole, we were inside the 30 maybe, or pretty close to getting to the red zone, had a decent drive going, and then just some bad things happened. You know, we had some tackles for loss in the backfield. We might have, we didn't have many penalties last night. Looking at that, we only had, one for 10 yards, but, it would just, when we would get something positive going, their defense would just stiffen up, and we would be 1st and 10, and then the next thing you know, we're 2nd and 15, or we were 3rd and 5. Look up, we're 4th and 12. Just put ourselves in those situations. We just had some promising drives. That one in the second quarter that got stymied, I thought was the real turnaround, because there was still about 2 or 3 minutes left in the second quarter, and we were both saying in the booth, if we can just keep them from scoring here before half, then it's a 6-0 game, and then it's still a really tight, competitive game. But once they marched that ball down the field pretty convincingly there right before halftime, you just felt like that was a pretty big gut punch to the Bulldogs.
So it was 12-0 Censor at the break, and the Red Devils got the ball to start the second half. And Carmi really had the Red Devils right where they wanted them on that opening drive of the second half. It was a tackle for loss by Cade Stockton and then a tackle for loss by Jazz Duckworth. Censor had it 3rd and 19 at their own, I think it was their own 35, somewhere in there. They run a screen pass to their big fullback Hicks, and he picks up the first down all the way inside the 5, and they score on the next play to make it 18-0. That kind of felt like Carmi, any momentum they had, just got the wind sucked out of them on that play.
Yeah, because, they were getting near the 10-yard line. They haven't pushed back that far, and you thought, okay, 3rd and long, we stop them here. We got some life. We're back in this game, and you're right, Cole. They hit the screen pass, and when he got that first down, it was just like all the wind came out of their sails, and you could just kind of see the look. You could see the demeanor of the kids after that play. It was just like, okay, what else do we have to do? Again. The play like 3rd and long, you got to capitalize. You got to get them to 4th and long, get the ball back. You can't give them new life. But again, credit a good play call. The 250-pound fullback on a screen got him the first down, and honestly, Cole, that's what ended the game.
Censor did score twice in the fourth quarter, a 76-yard run from Jace Irwin with 7:46 to go, and then their JV quarterback Jackson Borda ran a 12-yard run with 2:06 remaining to put the final score at 32-0. And I do think the score, it's two-sided. I do think it does show that Censor did dominate the ball game, but I do, like I said, I think Carmi was a couple of plays away. So many drives, just not able to finish. And if you finish half of those drives, you still could have been at late in the ball game, and anything can happen. But I do think this score goes to show how good of a football team Sassafras really is. Really surprised me from what I thought the game was going to be.
Yeah, without question. They're right there with anybody. It's, as I've said, it's a program that is just taking a step to a different level. We've talked about teams in the conference that have just been consistent. You look at the Fairfield Mules over the last decade or more. In the early 2000s, mid 2000s, they weren't real strong. They struggled, but they ran into a cycle of athletes, and Justin Townsend has taken that program to where they're without quite every year they're a perennial playoff team. Johnston City, a team we're going to face Week 9. We all know by now the picture is very clear that they are the team in the Black Diamond, without question. That's a program. The last 3 or 4 years, they've taken it to another level. That's the knock on the Black Diamond is even our teams that go 9-0 can't make it out of the first, second round. Well, that was a team that made it to the semifinals just 2 seasons ago, and they're looking like a team that could make another deep playoff run. So those 3 teams, not to delve too far in the weeds, we know that they've just hit another level. The Bulldogs have been very consistent these past 3 seasons, but when you go into Cesar, that's kind of a litmus test in your season. Coming in at 3-0 with a forfeit win, we knew, okay, how we perform tonight's going to kind of tell us what we do, because next week doesn't get any easier with Fairfield. But again, this Cesar program is just solid, well coached, tough up front, tough and physical up front, and good athletes in the backfield. They're a team capable of, we talked about what they lost in last year, and just an incredible player with Colt Packer. Even with him gone, this team can still do some things, and they dominate the line of scrimmage is how they win games this year.
Stats from last night for the Bulldogs: Noah Pollard 30 carries for 131 yards. Cade Stockton added 8 carries for 47 yards. Cale Wiggins 2 carries for 41 yards. Dakota Brown 2 carries for 10 yards. Cooper Hill had 1 carry for 5 yards. For Cesar-Valier, Jace Irwin 16 carries, 244 yards and a touchdown. Dawson Nutt had 7 carries for 38 yards. Caden Hicks 6 carries, 34 yards and 2 scores. Liam McMurray 1 carry for 20 yards. And the quarterback Trace Payne had 3 carries for 17 yards. Their backup quarterback Jackson Borda 2 carries for 16 yards and a touchdown. Passing wise, the Bulldogs, Madden Anderson, he was 2 for 4 with 4 yards and 1 interception. Trace Payne 3 for 5 with 46 yards and 1 touchdown. Cade Stockton 2 catches, 4 yards. Kyan Short 1 catch for 10 yards and a touchdown. Caden Hicks 1 catch for 21 yards for the Red Devils. Here is what head coach Kurt Simon had to say last night after the Bulldogs fell to Cesar-Valier 32-0.
Where do we go from here? I guess we'll just lead in with that, Coach.
It's one game. It's one game with a long season. I give them all the credit in the world. We got our butts whipped tonight, up and down the line of scrimmage, and that's what it was like from the get-go. And they did a great job pursuing like we knew they were going to, put a lot of guys up. Guys were shading a little bit, and we were having a hard time blocking them up front, so it made it difficult for us. We never really could get loose.
Well, Coach, it kind of seemed like kind of missed opportunities was the story of the game. You guys had some drives where you got down deep in their territory, penalty here, tackle for a loss there, and just weren't able to find the end zone.
No, that's the bottom line. And again, you give them credit because they did a great job tonight. We knew they were going to be bigger up front. We knew that coming in, and that was going to be an issue for us being able to part the ways, so to speak, so we can get Noah Stockton or whoever going. And they just did a great job tonight. They did a great job, and I'll give them all the credit in the world. We got to get better. We'll come in tomorrow morning. We got a good bunch of kids, good character. We'll come in, look at the film, and get down the street again next week. We're ready to go. And we know we got Fairfield coming in. Fairfield just as good as this team, and so we're gonna have to be ready.
I really feel, Coach, you summed it up. There isn't much else you can say. We were just talking about the fact is just a physical football team. They're big, fast, strong at all positions, well coached. They just played well. It's a talented football team, so can't hang your head on one night because, as you just said, we got a talented football team we're going to see next week. But what because this is a place they haven't been in a long time, a loss like this, shutout. What's the preparation plans for your team? Mentally, what were you telling your team as we go forward after this?
Yeah, I think right now it's just a matter of us kids. So we got it hit in the mouth tonight. And, in the first couple games we were behind. We talked about how we got to show good character, keep hanging in there and keep battling. And this is no different. This was a game, and we got beat pretty good. Now we find out what kind of character we really have. We got to be able to gear back up, go back to work, and come out and play a lot better because we didn't play real well tonight. But I will say a lot of that credit of that is to Cesar. They played very well tonight, and we had a hard time blocking them. We lost a lot of battles, a lot of individual battles tonight, and that's partially because we were playing some kids that were a little better than we were. So there's really no rhyme or reason other than the fact that it is one game. We got beat good, and now we got to find out what we're made of because we got another good one coming in next week.
Next week you guys are hosting Fairfield at home for the first time in what feels like a year, but they were competing with JC earlier tonight. What do we know about the Mules?
Well, the Mules could have beat these guys last week. You know, they lost 8-6 in a rain delay game. The Mules are going to be very similar to them. They're good up front. They got a couple good hard-running running backs. They don't throw it quite as much, but I mean, Cesar wasn't throwing it all over the yard tonight either. So it'll be very similar. We're going to have to play a lot better to compete next week with Fairfield.
All right, thanks for your time, Coach.
Yep,
Thank you, Coach.
That was Kurt Simon last night, and Cesar after the Bulldogs fell 32-0, and we kind of expected Coach to be straight to the point last night, and he was just. They got their butts kicked last night at certain points.
Yeah, that's all you can say. And I said this at the ending of the broadcast last night. In this era of football where they basically call it pinball games. With 50, 60-point games and 5 wide and just winging the ball. At the end of the day, it comes down to 3 words: bigger, faster, and stronger. And it doesn't matter what plays you draw up, what schemes you draw up. If your guys on the front line on both sides of the ball can dominate, you're going to win football games. It's as simple as that. Football is won up front, and Cesar just plain and simple won the battle up front. But with that said, that's the case where, our offensive and defensive line, today are waking up, they're shaking that off and saying, okay, we learned from it, and we're going to come out, get laser focused, and we're not going to let that happen again, because there is no time to feel sorry for yourself, because as Coach pointed out, Fairfield, who we faced Friday night, only lost to Cesar by 2 points and had every opportunity to beat that Cesar team last week. So you have no time to hang your head. You got to get back up. You got to shake it off and get back to work and, get things back on track. But, the big thing is all of our linemen, both sides of the ball especially, just have to do a gut check and say, hey, we're not going to let this happen again, because they're a great group of kids. They're a talented group of kids, but they're just going to have to be determined that, we're going to win the physical battle going forward.
Other scores last night from around the area: Hamilton County was leading Edwards County 19-0. They stopped that game early in the third quarter because of lightning. They're going to resume that game Monday at 6:30. So Hamilton County has their homecoming today. I believe Junior Pro plays there today. So they are going to resume that game Monday at 6:30 in McLeansboro, with the Foxes up 19-0. Flora had to come back and defeat El Dorado. They were down, I believe, 22-8 at one point. The Wolves come back and win that one 36-22. And we mentioned Johnson City defeating Fairfield 44-26, but that was a one-score game late into the fourth quarter. The Indians scored late to make the score look a little worse than what it was, but the Mules were right there with the Indians last night. In the River to River Conference, DuQuoin defeats Benton in a big shootout between a couple of big schools, 21-10. Nashville over Anna Jonesboro, 48-6. West Frankfort all over Pinckneyville, 61-33. Carterville defeats Heron, 49-20, and Murfreesboro over Massac County, 56-2. In the Cahokia Conference, it was Redbud over Carlisle, 47-20. Chester over Sparta, 49-2. Bree Central, they were defeating Freeburg 14-0. That game was suspended in the second quarter. They're going to resume that here in about 40 minutes. That game will start back up. In the Little Illini Conference, Mount Carmel, they were leading Newton 30-8. I believe it was in the third quarter. Started to storm. That game, they will not resume that game. That's a final. Mount Carmel defeats Newton 30-8. Paris over Lawrenceville 27-19. Casey Westfield over Robinson 42-25. Olney is playing at Marshall today at 2 o'clock. Some non-conference games. It was Harrisburg shutting out Alton Marquette 54-0. Mount Vernon over Collinsville 45-21. Bree Central over Madison 44-6. And CZR, this was their Vienna Goreville week. They are playing at Red Hill today at 11 o'clock. And speaking of Red Hill, we learned earlier this week the Black Diamond Conference has sent them an invitation to join for football taking place at Vienna Goreville. I believe Red Hill has a board meeting Monday night in which they will either accept or decline the invite. I don't know why they would decline the invite. I know the coaches there. It's been kind of a mutual agreement that they want to join the Black Diamond for football, but that's great news all around because it gets the BDC back to 10 teams. It will be a closed conference, and no more bye weeks. No more having to scramble to find non-conference opponents. And Red Hill is going to bring good competition to the conference.
I think it's fantastic news. I think they would be a great fit. size wise, as far as their enrollment, they fit in nicely. And you look at the geographic thing. Yeah, Johnson City playing Red Hill. Yeah, that would be a haul. But done it before. Chester was in, so you just kind of grind that one out and just know that hey, there's going to be some travel involved with that for some teams, but it'd be a nice fit. And the kind of the neat thing for me, one of the old men around here, is seeing Red Hill, Fairfield, Flora, and Carmi. Half the old NEC gang is back. So I'll delve in the weeds if I say I don't mind seeing the old NEC come back. But
let's just strip it all. Let's bring Salem back.
I was going to say bring Mount Carmel only.
See what they're up to. Let's bring it back.
Have a mega conference. Black Diamond North, Black Diamond South. So.
Yeah, but Vienna and Goreville they will both stay in the conference for other sports. So basketball, wrestling, baseball, whatnot, they will still be in the BDC, and Red Hill will only be in the conference for football. They're football independent. They're in a different conference for their other sports. So it kind of goes hand in hand. Of course, Vienna, Goreville, they've struggled to put together a team. It's now 3 of the last 4 years where they haven't had a team, a varsity team. They're still playing at the lower levels, but I just think it best suits everybody to get them out as far as football and get Red Hill in. But we'll have official word, I believe, Monday night if Red Hill is joining, and they don't have to wait a couple of years to leave a conference, so they will join in 2025 school year, because normally sometimes when teams go from one conference to another, you got to wait a couple of years in between before you transfer. But since they're independent, they will join the BDC next fall if they accept the invitation. And again, we mentioned the Bulldogs. Their matchup next Friday. They're going to be at home for what feels like the first time in a year. They haven't played at home since week 1. They will play the Fairfield Mules in a matchup that again, this is a Fairfield team that probably should have beat Cesar last week in Cesar. They competed with John City last night. Bulldogs again, and they're going to have their hands full next week.
There's no question. I mean, there is no, hey, this is going to be a little less of a challenge. It's going to be every bit the challenge that we faced last night. Fairfield just a little different than Cesar. They will go that foot-to-foot split. They can spread the ball. Didn't see last night if they were still spreading the ball out a little bit. So that they have some diversity on offense, just like Cesar did. They have some big kids, not quite as big at the point of attack and in the backfield and in some positions. But, when you play Cesar an 8-6 game and you were within 10 points of Johnson City going into the fourth quarter, there's no question this is a good football team. So the challenge is just as great this coming Friday night as it was last night. So again, the Bulldogs are just, it was an eye opener. I think it's going to be looking in the mirror and saying, okay, we've got to prepare harder than we ever have in our life. But at the same time, they still got to believe. They got to believe in themselves, their team, and the coaches, what they're doing as a whole. It is their home field, and they just have to have some pride and come back and bounce back next week.
Rest of the regular season schedule for the Bulldogs. I mentioned Fairfield this Friday. They'll be at home against CZR the following week for homecoming. Then it's on the road at Edwards County Corn Day weekend. Then they're back at home for senior night the following week against El Dorado. Then week 9, they'll wrap things up on the road at Johnson City on October 25th. We'll take our first break of the morning. When we come back, we'll speak to our special guest right here on the Saturday Morning Sports Show on 97.3 WRUL, 93.3 WROI, and AM 1460. Welcome back to the Saturday Morning Sports Show here on 97.3 WRUL, 93.3 WROI, and AM 1460. Also online worldwide at WRUL.com. Cole Carter, Chris Myers with you. Joby Wagner across the hallway getting us on the air as we'll introduce our special guest this morning, being joined by CWC head volleyball coach Chris Lucas. Thanks, Coach, for swinging by this morning.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me come in. It's always a pleasure to come and do the show.
Well, Coach, you guys are off to a phenomenal start to the season, 18-1, a couple of tournament championships under your belt, and you guys got second place in the NCOE tournament last week, but man, after that incredible end of the season last year, you guys are picking up where you left off.
Yeah, we knew it could be a special year again this year as long as we stayed healthy. We have pretty much everybody back except Mara, who is a huge loss. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you can't lose a kid like Mara Serafini and feel the impact. But I mean, some of the kids have stepped up. switch positions. Got a lot of depth again this year, but yeah, it's been a tremendous start to the beginning of the season.
You know, Coach, what you guys did last year, I mean, first ever appearance in the state tournament for our volleyball program. What you did for this program and the kids, you being the head coach, but it energized the town. It just, when you do something like that, I guess what I'm trying to say, when you take a program that had never had a chance to do this and you get them to this kind of level, it's changed culture.
Yeah.
These girls, you've changed the culture of volleyball. Going into this season, sometimes the challenge with that, when you're the hunter, when you're hungry and you do something you've never done, and you get to that level, now you guys, I mean, quite honestly, you guys are one of the top dogs in Southern Illinois, without question. How do you tell your girls, okay, we've got to maintain that hunger and that mentality is, hey, we're taking every week as we got to play like we're an underdog, even though knowing you guys are just so exceptionally talented this season. How do you keep that focus and hunger in your kids?
We talked about that early on in the summer about how everyone will be gunning for us. It doesn't matter. Beating us will be some team's Super Bowl, so to speak. And so, and it's proven true that teams that even we've watched them in tournaments and they've kind of coasted through and not played well, and then all of a sudden they play us, and we got their fans up, and the kids are excited or whatever, which is great. I told them, I said, that's what happens when you turn things around, is that instead of us looking at teams and thinking, we're probably going to lose tonight, that's how some teams are thinking about you guys now, but they're not going to lay down for you just because you step in the gym. And I point up there to the thing all the time, the fourth place thing. I'm like, just because that happened last year doesn't, at this point, it's over. I mean, that's last year. We love it. It was great. It was awesome, but we got bigger and better things to do. And so to try to get them to understand that just because we've had success in the past doesn't guarantee success now, and you have to keep that hunger and that drive every single match. And it doesn't matter if it's an inferior opponent or not. You've got to make sure that you're staying at the level that you need to be playing, not getting bad habits in games we think we're going to win, And the girls have been awesome at that. They've not had any letdowns so far. And, they realize now that they can beat anybody, and they are going to be an underdog in very few matches they play. And they've done a great job. We've got a bunch of seniors and juniors this year who have been through it for a long time now, and they're not going to, look at any situation and say, we're just going to step on this floor and dominate just because of our name or because of who. They realize they have to play, and our seniors have done a great job leading this team and making sure that mindset stays that way. So
I do want to congratulate you on picking up your 100th career coaching win last week at the NCOE tournament. But what I loved about that is the first thing you said was, it's not about me, it's about the girls. And you've been lucky to have some really talented girls on your squad, especially this season, and really senior through freshman, you got a talented core that has been a big part of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I tell a lot of people that come and congratulate me or whatever, and that's the truth, is that you can't do it without kids and great assistant coaches. And we have been blessed to have really good talent the last several years. But I think I said to somebody, if you want to know how I've won 100 games in 4 years or whatever, just go watch us play. It's our kids. It's all about them. And we're an experienced group now who, these kids, some of them are 4-year starters now, and they make me look good because, and I can't say enough about Kate Simmons and Jamie Brzezinski, my 2 assistants too, because you go watch a volleyball game and it takes 3 or 4 people to be able to see what's going on each side of the floor because it's such a fast-moving game. And so, yeah, it's a blessing to get to 100 wins, but I mean, these kids deserve all the credit. They come every single day ready to go, ready to practice. They practice hard, they work hard, and they have tremendous talent. Like I said, just come out and watch them, and that's pretty obvious to see. So.
Yeah, and I think this success you're breeding here, it's starting to carry over into your lower levels because, correct me if I'm wrong, you had some tremendous numbers at your summer camps this year. You still have a lot of kids involved in club ball, and at the lower levels have some strength coming from there?
Absolutely. I mean, we've had over 100 kids at our camp the last 2 years, and I think if I'm thinking right, all of those kids are from Carmi. We have maybe 1 or 2 kids at the most that come from, other towns, but when you've got a town this size and you can have 100 kids at your camp, it gets them excited. They want to see these older girls. They look up to them, and I tell our kids that all the time, like, everything you do on and off the floor, these young kids are watching you. They idolize you, so to speak. And so, in our middle school program, we had about 45 or 50 7th and 8th graders try out for the middle school team last year. And so, it has been great to see how, turning things around, not just the kids getting involved, but the community support, just the people that come up to us and congratulate us on our season last year, and the people that attend now games in the stands. You go watch volleyball games. We played Edwards County. I thought a basketball game, the boys' basketball game was happening, and the whole gym was packed with people. And it's just an exciting time right now for Carmi volleyball. But our freshman team has not lost. They split at Hamco the other night. Our JV team is undefeated right now, and so they see that level of success above them with the varsity kids, and it makes them want to compete even harder in practices and games. And it's starting to pay off now. So.
Well, you mentioned the excitement in the town, and I was going to mention that point as well. That Edwards County match, your guys' first home match, it felt like a Friday night boys basketball game. That's how packed that place was. But how cool has that been, just to see, on this 4-year journey you've had since you took over as head coach, just to see the excitement in the town. And of course, when you make a trip to the state tournament, that's going to help. But just the excitement in the town for a sport that 20, 30 years ago wasn't really known for in this town. But here you are. We're a volleyball town now. It feels like.
Yeah, it's been really awesome to see, because nothing against anything in the past, but Carmi volleyball has always been the kind of, we're competitive. We compete with teams, but we always felt like, we can't beat Fairfield, we can't beat Edwards County, we can't, and we have this list of teams that we just didn't feel we can compete with. And now, whenever you start to change that culture, people get on board. You get, instead of 50 fans in the stands, you've got 300 or 400 people in the stands watching, and it makes a huge difference. And the outpouring from the community, not just the community as far as individuals, but the businesses that have reached out and wanted to support our kids by just donating funds to be able to get new shirts, new jerseys. We've got a new net system thanks to our booster club. We're hosting a regional this year now. So it's been exciting. It's been fun. And like I said, we've got a lot of young kids that are very talented, and I can see success for many years. And hopefully we will remain, a good volleyball school also, so to speak, because, football and softball and baseball and all those kinds of things have been successful in the past, and we're wanting to get to that level and maintain that level for many years to come.
Yeah, and I think what you've done here, without question, I've said this before, we're talking about football, as Kurt Simon came here 28 years ago, and from 1976 till 1999, we'd had one winning season. Mm-hmm. That he changed kind of the mindset of how we approach football around here. Kids are wanting to play and, become a solid program. I think you have, without question, done the same thing without volleyball. I made the comment, quite honestly, in years past, football just kind of passed the time because Carmi had some dominant basketball teams in the 80s, 90s. Same for the girls. Volleyball was there, but we're excellent girls basketball program, and but you've made it to where, and these kids, that volleyball's for real. I mean, it's a thing here. Once you turn that corner and you do something like you guys have done, I think this is just the beginning, and I know that's your goal to get this. You've established what they call a culture. You've seen the numbers coming, your kids at the lower levels. You created something here, and my hat's off to you, and congratulations to you and all your girls. And I know you're going to keep it going, but it is just awesome what you've done for this program, and just again, my hat's off to you and all those kids.
I appreciate that, because we tried, when I came in, I tried to just establish a level of just discipline, basically respect from the kids, respect for the game. It's a whole new game than it was even 5 years ago. I mean, if you go watch volleyball now, people that have watched it through the years, just the level of play is so much better now. And I give a lot of that credit to our strength and conditioning guys, with our trainers. I mean, these girls are in the gym all the time. They're lifting. They're doing, plyometric stuff. They're doing all that stuff, and you can just tell they're bigger, faster, stronger than they've ever been before. And it really shows when we go play certain teams that we know don't have those types of things in place in their school with the strength and conditioning stuff, and it makes a difference. And I'll use Caroline Simmons as an example. I mean, she's 5'5", but she has worked her tail end off as far as being able to increase her vertical and things like that, and she plays like she's 6 foot. I mean, there's no question about it. And so, but all of that stuff, these girls, not only our strength and conditioning program and that kind of thing, but they're playing club ball, like we mentioned before. They are doing things year-round to make sure that whenever volleyball season comes, they're ready to go. And so, it's just been a blessing and an honor and a privilege to be able to coach here, to coach these kids. And we're hoping that we continue with this enthusiasm from our lower levels, trying to do some things to maybe get 6th graders involved in volleyball too, because almost every community around us, their kids are starting in 4th, 5th, 6th grade. And right now, with girls basketball, it's just been difficult to get those schedules coordinated. But I think we're going to hopefully start to do something to get that going. And it's just an exciting time right now for Carmi White County volleyball for sure.
Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry, Cole.
I was just because you guys, you're getting into your conference schedule. You've only played 3 conference matches so far, but here from really now until the end of the season, you've got really the bulk of your conference games. I know you still got to play Edwards County one more time at least, and you're going to see Fairfield twice. But kind of from where you guys are, 18-1 at this point in the season. Like I said, you got to see those 2 teams before the end of the year. But how are you feeling about how things have gone and how things are looking for the rest of the year?
Well, I mean, Fairfield's 13-7 right now, and they play in a Capital Classic where they just played, 5 games against teams that are some of the best teams in the state. And Fairfield's always going to be Fairfield as long as Chet Snyder's coaching over there. And so, I mean, that's a deceiving record for them. They're going to be tough whenever we play them. It's always a battle. Then we got to play them twice still in the conference, and then Edwards County's I think they're 14-3 right now. They're a load. I mean, if whoever came and watched that game that we played at home, that 3-set match, I mean, they are very talented, very athletic. They're big, which sometimes gives us problems playing teams that are really big. But those are going to be very difficult conference games to win, and we haven't won the conference since 2016. Even the last 2 years that 3 years that we've been really successful, we still have not won the conference. And so that's one of our biggest goals to start the season, was to actually win a conference championship this year. So it's really important to us and to our kids to be able to do that. And then if you guys can, fans, if you can get to Edwards County when we play that tournament over there, it is absolutely loaded. We're in it, Edwards County, North City, Effingham, who's one of the best 3A teams in the South and in the middle part of the state. They actually split sets with us this summer when we played them, and they beat us last year in 3 sets, and they didn't graduate anybody. So you got Newton, who's in that tournament, who is also, I think they're like maybe 15-2, 15-3, something like that. So come out and watch that. It's going to be a really good tournament. But our goal is to stay healthy till regional time. That's when it counts. That's when it matters. Regional, not the seeds obviously yet, but the where your people are going. The subsectional list came out already, and we have the exact same teams in our subsectional we did last year, which is good for us because Mater Dei, Central, Columbia, Nashville, all those teams are on the other side. So those teams, we would not see in obviously a regional, sectional, that type of thing. But we have very good teams in our subsectional that will be very difficult to even win a regional again this year. So
my question was just kind of a lighthearted one. That's just me.
Sure.
All right. I think, and I want to get your opinion on this. The rule is if a ball, when it's being served, hits the net and it lands, they count it. Mm-hmm. I think it should go to correct me if I'm wrong, years and years ago, wasn't the rule if the ball clipped the net,
You used to
It
not be
didn't
able to hit
count.
the net,
Right.
correct?
I think it should go back to that. What's your feelings
Yeah.
on that? It drives me crazy. That's
Well-
my only non-volleyball expert thing. I
Yeah.
think if it hits the net, it shouldn't
It's
count.
kind of like tennis. You
Yeah.
serve it to let or whatever.
Right.
Right? Either serve it over or give it to the other. Yeah. Because a lot of girls have mastered that where they just hit a low driving serve, hits the top of the net, and just girls are moving as the ball is served to go from their base to where they're going to be, and it's difficult. Yeah, it's hard. So no, I'm kind of in agreement with you about that. I think it should at least be a reserve, but. It used to be the old way. Matches last forever. You could only score whenever you served, and those took
True.
those. You went to 15, but
Yeah.
you could only score
played
if you
5
served.
sets,
It seemed
correct?
it seemed
Yeah.
to take forever. But no, I tend to agree with you on that one. I don't like that one, especially when it happens to us. It hits the top of the net and falls over. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
You can't even make a play on it most of the time.
See,
So.
I hope you're listening, IHSA. That's my rant for today.
sure they don't
Anyway.
care what we
Yeah,
have
they
to
could
say
care
about
less, like they care. So anyway.
Well, Coach, I did tell some of your girls that you were going to be in here this morning, and so I asked Ashlyn Rager. I said, "What's something that I need to ask your coach about?" And
Oh, boy.
she wanted me to ask you about your guys' team camp trip that you
Oh,
took
no.
in Union this summer. The stories were pretty good, but I wanted to get your perspective
my
on that team camp
goodness.
trip.
Yeah, all right. Well, it was a successful team camp trip. We enjoyed, we had a great time there, whatever. But I mean, there were a couple of really bizarre things that happened. Like first of all, there was a hot dog in the swimming pool. I mean, that started the whole thing. Then we start talking about something goofy in the van, and before long, we park in the parking lot. All the girls are laughing, and then it turns to, oh, disgusting! Or they're jumping out. One of our players had gotten laughing so hard they threw up in the van, and so but that's not the best. Yeah. So we go to a hibachi grill, and I had trouble with swallowing sometimes food and stuff, and so I start eating this, I don't remember, steak or something, and all of a sudden I can't breathe. I'm like, I'm standing up, and I'm, getting ready to do the Heimlich maneuver on myself, and, I push my stomach, and all of a sudden, in front of the whole place, right there at the hibachi grill, Kate Simmons is sitting next to me, and it comes out everywhere. I mean, look of horror on everybody's face. One of the most embarrassing situations I've been in a long time. But at least I'm not. At least I'm still here because there was no air coming in. But thank you, Ashlyn, if you're listening, for making me relive that moment. Not one of my finer moments. So.
Well, and one thing that I'm sure you're happy to relive, and I just want to ask you before we go, just last postseason. I mean, how, I know we haven't had you on here since then, and just how awesome was that? Just for the entire town, and just to defeat some really tough teams to get up there, and obviously when you get up to Bloomington, you're facing some really tough teams there, obviously. But just how special and how incredible was that postseason journey last year?
It's really even hard to describe now how incredible it was, and just the outpouring of support that we got from our school administration, our community, people, I fell in love with this volleyball team last year, and I mean, what a blessing and honor it was to be able to do that. Like you said, beat some really good teams in the sectional. Probably my fondest memory, even still, is beating Fairfield in the sectional championship. And I mean, they had plans on going last year to state, and they had their best team they've ever had, according to Chet. And then to beat St. Thomas More in the super sectional, and I mean, just a dream, pretty much. One of those things where you try to slow it down so you can enjoy it, but it was just so awesome. Everybody was on such a high that it just seemed like it went by so quickly. But, and of course I always get asked, we're going back again. I don't know if we're going back again. We've got a great team. We're as good as we were last year. But I try to keep our kids grounded and say, hey, listen, you can't live on success in the past ever in life. You've got to keep pushing day after day. You want to feel that feeling again. Don't take any plays off in practice. Don't take any games for granted. You can only do this, most of you, for 4 years in your life, and it's over with. So make sure you make the best of every single opportunity you have to play this game, whether it be in practice or a game. But just a fantastic, awesome season last year, and hopefully we can continue that success and make a great postseason run again this year.
Well, Coach, we appreciate your time coming in this morning, and it's been fun watching your girls play this first half of the season, and we're looking forward to seeing what they can do the rest of the way. Thanks for your time this morning.
All right, thank you guys for having me. Appreciate
Thanks for
it.
coming in.
We'll take our final break in the morning. We come back, we'll wrap things up right here on the Saturday Morning Sports Show. All right, welcome back to the Saturday Morning Sports Show here on 97.3 WRUL, 93.3 WROI, and AM 1460. And we will quickly run through our Terrible 10 pick'em so we can get off the air in time for the Little Egypt Saturday Showcase that starts at 10 o'clock. So, tell you what, Chris, I'm having some uncharacteristic luck in the Terrible 10 pick'ems. I went 8-2 again 2 weeks ago.
Man.
You went 5-5 again. So overall, I'm 16-4, and you are 10-10.
Terrible is the key word for me. Terrible. These
right.
tens.
5 college games going on today, 5 NFL games going on tomorrow. USC at Michigan. Let me take USC here.
I'll do the same.
Michigan, a little bit of a struggle starting out this year. Number 12, Utah at 14, Oklahoma State. This one's interesting because Utah has looked pretty good. Oklahoma has struggled. I think Arkansas a couple weeks ago almost upset them at home. It's hard to go against a home team when you have these ranked matchups. I will go on a limb, and I'll say OK State here.
I almost want to agree with you, but I'm going to go ahead and go with the Utes on that one.
Not a bad pick for
Yeah.
either side here.
Yeah.
Another big matchup, and this one in the SEC. Number 6, Tennessee at number 15, Oklahoma.
Well, we will finally see the Volunteers be challenged. They've
Yes.
been putting up 70 points a game on some lesser opponents. I mean, doesn't downplay their offense. They're pretty dynamic.
Yeah.
But Oklahoma's going to be a different animal. But I still think, and that's at Tennessee,
At Oklahoma.
I still think Tennessee edges that one. They got just enough offense to.
Yeah, I agree.
take
I'm
that
going.
game.
I'm going with the Vols there.
Yeah.
And a couple of unranked matchups. Baylor is at Colorado to face Coach Prime. I think the Buffaloes are a slight favorite here. They have played better the last couple of weeks. I will take Colorado here.
I'll go ahead and take them too. But, you know, as we talk about in high school games, you have to be able to run the football at some point. And they did just enough running to win last week at Colorado State, but I'll go ahead and take them at home. If they can learn to run the football, they'll be a lot better team.
Another SEC matchup. Arkansas is at Auburn. Auburn with a new quarterback played much better last week. I will go with the Tigers here.
I'm going to go ahead and say Woo Pig Suey Racer back on this one.
All right. So the 5 NFL games going on tomorrow. Maybe the biggest surprise in the NFL, New Orleans Saints. They're 2-0. They host the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm gonna say Saints keep on marching. I'm going New Orleans here.
I think so. I agree with you. I mean, you put up, 40 some odd points in both your first 2 games. You go into Dallas and put up 44 points on them, you know, and that defense, you may be for real. We'll see. It's week 3.
Another battle of 2-0 teams. The Texans are at Minnesota to face the Vikings, who have been another surprise in the NFL. But I do think the Texans a little too much firepower offensively. I'm going to go Houston here.
I'm going to go ahead and stick with the Vikings just because they stuck it to my Niners last week. So
Respect. I appreciate the respect there.
Yes.
Local matchup here. The Bears. They're in Indianapolis to take on the Colts. That's an interesting game to watch. Neither team played very well last week. Lucas Oil, though, it's a tough place to play. I'm going to go with the Colts here at home.
Neither team has much offense. You know, young quarterbacks. It's boy, gosh, that one is definitely could go either way. I'm just going to go ahead just because I like saying Dub Bears. I mean, that one.
I was wondering if you were going to get it out this
could
morning.
go either way, but I'll go ahead and give Dub Bears just the win on that one.
The Baltimore Ravens, they travel to Dallas. Both teams coming off some rather embarrassing losses.
Yeah. Ooh.
Man, if the Ravens start out 0-3, I would love that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Dallas here. I
Okay.
would love for the Ravens to start off 0-3.
Well, and I'd love for the Cowboys to start 1-2. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the Ravens there, Cole.
right.
I know they're your nemesis, but Dallas is my nemesis being a Niner fan, so I got to go with the Ravens.
Last game, it's the Detroit Lions at the Arizona Cardinals. Man, Arizona, they looked pretty darn good last week.
They
Put
did.
it to the Rams, but Detroit, you know, I think they're the much better team. It's in Arizona. I think the Lions are going to pull this one out.
I'm going to go ahead and go with Cardinals.
Okay.
I think their offense is, Kyler Murray, when he's in with the right system, right coach, he's a pretty good player.
So one of us is going to do really good, and one of us is going to do really bad on those NFL picks. But that's going to wrap things up for us this morning here in the studio. Again, a big thanks to head coach Chris Lucas swinging by and talking to us. Big thanks to Toby Brown and the Bulldog football stat crew for getting us stats from last night's game. And we'll be back on the air next Saturday at 9 o'clock for the sports show, and we'll be on the air Friday night as well as the Bulldogs take on Fairfield. Big thanks to Joey Wagner across the hallway getting us on the air. For Chris Myers, I'm Cole Carter. Thanks for listening to the Saturday Morning Sports Show. Have a great weekend.